Northwest. This is for the good old days. Back when we was going to the Memorial Coliseum, and then they went to the Rose Garden, and then they brought something new in town.
Welcome back. It is, episode 13 already. This one is on, unfortunately, a little bit of a late drop after recording. Had some technical difficulties go on and just wanted to make sure everything got smoothed out appropriately before we released the episode, and by we, I mean me. So that's how that one went down. And so I guess I won't waste any time. Let's get right into it. In WNBA news, obviously my girl Sabrina Ionescu with the New York Liberty is out with an ankle injury. She thankfully does not need surgery on that ankle, and as many of us know, she has been rehabbing and healing in the presence of the Bryant girls, and as we know, the beloved Mamba Day, well, I guess it's Kobe Bryant Day and his birthday are coming up, and this episode may even drop on one of those days, so I think that will actually be happening. So by that time, it will be, oh, there's a cat. By that time, the episode will be dropping. So it was really nice to see Sabrina, with the Bryant girls. Obviously, we know how close she was with Kobe and also with Gigi. So it's just nice to know that she is around some positive mentality during her healing process, and hopefully she can be on the mend quickly, and since she does not have to have surgery, maybe we can see her again before the conclusion of the WNBA season. That would be nice. So as you know, in episode 12, I did predict for the LA Sparks to beat the Phoenix. God, I cannot talk today. I don't know what the deal is. The LA Sparks to beat the Phoenix Mercury, and that did happen twice now. So the LA Sparks are definitely one of 3 teams, including also the Storm and the Las Vegas Aces, that I think are 3 of the league favorites right now in the WNBA. And I think those 3 teams are going to continue to stay in the top of the rankings as we get closer to playoff time in the Wubble. So definitely more on that in the culture segment of the episode after the interview guest. So make sure you stay tuned for that, because definitely, like I said, going to be talking about some happenings in the Wubble for our culture topic at the end of the episode. Moving on to the NBA, obviously Blazers and Lakers. Shout out to Trill Blazin for the shirt for this episode. Series is tied 1-1. I think it's going to be different after, again, this episode airs. I think this episode will air just after Game 3, so hopefully that goes well. Dame did dislocate his finger. Zach Collins is out for the season. He is having season-ending ankle surgery. He has some big, crazy contusion-like thing that's going on with his ankle that I can't remember how to pronounce. So that's what's going on with Collins. Unfortunately, I just feel so bad for him. I was speaking with a friend of mine who unfortunately happens to be a Lakers fan, and I was saying I honestly think that the Blazers may get to a point where they actually end up waiving Collins just because of his injury proneness. Unfortunately, I don't like saying that. I love Zach Collins. I would love for him to stick around Rip City, but I just think it's getting a little bit unrealistic as far as expectations go for his contract and things like that. And, although the injuries are not, his fault, they take time to recover from and heal from, and you have to make sure that a player is fully healthy before you get them back on the floor. Otherwise, things are going to happen again. You're going to re-injure yourself, and overall, your body is just not going to be healthy to play in general. So, best of luck, all the love, and best wishes to Zach Collins. We hope that you get well soon. It's just such a heartbreaking news to hear about that. In other parts of the NBA playoffs, we have the Celtics that are up 2-0 against the Bucks. Giannis not looking so hot right now. And the Raptors are up 2-0 against the Nets. Now we all know the Nets put on a really stellar performance against the Blazers. Karis LeVert had an outstanding game. But they are not doing so well against the Raptors, the defending champions. So going to be interesting how that goes. Obviously, we all know the Blazers avoided a 2-game face-off with the Memphis Grizzlies. They ended up beating them in the first of potentially 2, which then avoided the Game 2 scenario entirely. So that's kind of how that one ended up breaking down. I know a lot of people were not aware that if Memphis would have won that game, they would have had to turn around the very next day, which was Sunday, and play Portland again. So it was a 1-win scenario for Portland, but it was a 2-win scenario from Memphis. So that's how that ended up shaking out. And as we know, Portland is now facing the Lakers, as I just mentioned. So gonna be interesting how the rest of the playoffs goes. I don't want to get too much hate from Lakers fans and friends. Kind of on the shorter side of things here today with the news and culture segment, and honestly the whole episode in general. But moving on to the MLB very quickly, there has been lots of COVID positive postponed games, and honestly I think everybody in the sports world saw this coming. I think everyone agreed that having players travel throughout the nation to face other teams was not a good idea, and it's proving that it's not a good idea. And it's just really no surprise that we have had so many games postponed. I think the Cardinals versus Tigers and Orioles versus Marlins were like the very first 2 games and or series that ended up being postponed because of COVID and players testing positive. And honestly, I think they just should have shut it down right then and there. Or, I mean, even get these players to a bubble. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to a lot of people that I've spoken with, both on the podcast and elsewhere, social media, in person. It just doesn't make sense. You're risking a lot of players' health here. There's a lot of unknowns about how COVID is affecting people once they recover, so to speak, from it, or, are testing negative. The after effects of it are what is very concerning to me, especially in the body of an athlete. So that's my take on it. We're still seeing COVID postponed games in MLB, and I think we will continue to. But if everything goes well and we don't get too many postponements or even a cancellation altogether, the Rays, the A's, and the Dodgers are all doing consistently well right now. I being, partly from the Bay Area, having grown up part of the time there when I was younger, love the A's, grew up watching them. Even though I'm a diehard Yankees fan, will always root for the Yankees, I also have very deep family ties to the Dodgers. So trying not to be a fair weather or a bandwagon fan for those teams, but I do genuinely have love for them. And it is always really nice to see them doing well. So exciting, but also concerning times in the MLB, I think we can all agree on. And I think you guys will enjoy this episode's interview guest, which is Jake Brown. He is the host of Amazin but True podcast with the New York Post, and a self-proclaimed Mets fan. He used to be a Yankees fan, he's now a Mets fan, and his interview is going in this episode now, so I hope you guys enjoy it. All right, we have Jake Brown on episode 13, Sports Talk Mostly podcast. Hello, Jake. Say what's up, introduce yourself however you'd like.
What's up? Jake Brown. I produce all the New York Post sports podcast, and I host the Mets podcast there called Amazin' But True.
Yeah. How long have you been doing that specific podcast that you're hosting right now?
Amazing but True, we started in March. We kind of went 6 episodes and then went a hiatus once, baseball was not happening, and then we came back after July 4th. So it's been, we've had 12 or 13 episodes so far. It's been fun.
Nice, cooking along. And what was your motivation or reasoning for switching from mostly producing to hosting?
Well, I do both. I mean, I produce all the shows. I've always been a host, essentially. I've always been on air. This producing job full time was new for me, but because of my contacts and working in New York sports, it was like the perfect job for me. And honestly, sometimes to get in hosting, you have to produce first, and kind of be your own boss. And I was kind of the boss running the shows, picking the host. And it happened that I'm a Mets encyclopedia, and I'm good at hosting, so I was able to do the Mets shows. So I do it with a former Met who, a lot of Mets fans love, and Nelson Figueroa. So that me and him were already kind of friends before this, and it just was a match made in heaven. And I balance both. I produce all 6 of the shows, and I produce the own show that I co-host. But luckily, Nelson has a lot of connects with former players that he played with and guys he knows. So it's a good team effort.
Right. So you mentioned that you have quite a background in both producing and hosting. Talk a little bit about your journey to New York Post and how you came to all of these great shows that you're a part of now.
Yeah, it was a long, grueling journey. A lot of late nights working.
Some you've done a lot.
Yeah, I've been all over the place. It's been a grind. I've always worked hard, but before this, when I was working, it was a lot of it wasn't stuff I would truly loved. It was paying bills and like not truly hosting and being what I'm doing now, making the connects, like, getting like David Wright's number, texting at Terry Collins, like that kind of stuff is what I love. Before this, I was doing other stuff. So basically, if you want the journey from college on, it was Hofstra. I did the college radio station a year, but I did my own thing on the side. A lot of the kids thought they were better because they were at the college radio station for a couple of years. I was doing a once-a-month sports talk radio show, and what a lot of kids don't realize these days is you have to invest in yourself. I was paying for airtime in Long Island, $100 an hour to be on the air just to get the exposure, and working to pay for that. And, it was beer money in college, but it was also trying to get the show money. So I did that for like my senior year. Did 1 year of the college radio station, and then after college, it took me almost a year to get a job in the industry. Luckily, I was doing another paid show that you pay for on ESPN Radio New Hampshire, and that gave me a lot of exposure just being on ESPN Radio in some capacity.
Yeah.
And even if I wasn't getting paid, I was able to get big time guests, and I had to do something different. I had to cover Boston sports. I'm a New York sports guy that was pretending to know about like the Bruins, Celtics, Patriots. So you made good connects there, and then finally I landed a job, and CBS was my big break, which kind of got my name on the map a little bit. I hosted 3.5 to 4 years of podcasts on their network.
Right.
And then had other gigs after that. Once I got laid off and was unemployed 8 months, and this industry, you just got to get used to sometime you're going to be unemployed or you're going to get laid off, especially during COVID. So I had a bunch of success at doing the podcast as my side gig and just getting national attention, TMZ, CNN, ESPN. We had some crazy, just viral interviews that helped us kind of get us on the map. And then before the Post, just doing my own podcast and just keep plugging away with MLB, part-time gig, Sirius, running the board, associate producing, and that just led to getting this job in starting last October.
Awesome. That's awesome. That's so great. And like you said, you've been doing a lot of things both behind the board and behind the mic. You've been a part of a lot of things. And so I think your resume specifically is truly a testament to the fact that you hear a lot of people say take every opportunity that comes to you when you're trying to come up. And I think, like I said, your resume is definitely an example of that. I feel like you have risen to the occasion for so many different sources and networks and entities of talking about different sports, and like you said, taking yourself out of the box, talking about sports you're not familiar with, but kind of
faking it till you make it, as they say, which I kind of hate that phrase because I feel like faking it till you're making it, you still have to put some sort of knowledge into it and whatnot. But yeah, I think that you are a living example of kind of rolling with the punches and keeping it going. So thanks for telling us about that, because I think a lot of people need to, like, that reminder to just kind of stick with it when, you know, not even just necessarily in radio, but just whatever they're doing, whether they're an athlete, writer, photographer, whatever, to just stick with what they're doing and take the opportunities that come to them.
Yeah, and a couple pieces of advice I would give is, one, you know, you're gonna have to do stuff without getting paid. You can't. I know a lot of kids today are spoiled. They have to realize they have to take some gigs or do some gigs without getting paid. Another piece of advice I would say is, like, always, I hate to, you know, quote like rap, but stay scheming. I mean, always be plotting and scheming where what you can do next. For real though, like, a lot of people get settled into what they're doing. They got to realize what's coming next. This job for me, I've kind of been happy and settled, but, you know, there have been layoffs at the company, and you always got to be thinking, all right, if something happened here, what's next for me? So always be planning your next move, keep your website updated, you know, keep your demos going, and you know, you always got to be grinding and always trying to do multiple things. I wouldn't just settle one job and let, you know, this job for me is time consuming and a lot, but I still try to do my side show, the Life New York podcast, and do that, you know, here and there, Instagram lives, and just try to keep my own brand going, even if it's not every week, just to stay fresh.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Thank you. Again, more great reminders that I feel like people need to hear sometimes. So you touched on it just slightly in the secret segment. If anybody listens to the secret segment, subscribers only portion, that you are we'll call it a transitioned Mets fan. You used to be a Yankees fan. So talk about obviously your current allegiance, why you transitioned as a New York baseball fan, and some memorable moments, or a memorable moment that you have from Mets baseball throughout the years.
There haven't been many, but
I know. That's why I'm asking.
It's a rough life. What I like about what I do and being able to maybe be a radio personality, TV personality, is that I could still have my fanhood. You know, I write too. I've always written for years, and my dad always says the power of the pen, and it's been able to get me into all different opportunities I never thought was possible. But I don't want to be the nerdy journalist that's in the press box who can't cheer on a team. I have the ability in a normal year to get credentials and cover games and do all that, but I like the fan aspect. I like being able to kick back, have a beer, and watch the game. It's, to me, that's more fun than, you know, having a, you know, live tweet in, you know, write a story immediately on deadline after. So my fanhood, yes, it's a lot of people hate on me. It's Mets, Knicks, Jets, but I do root for the Giants as well. I don't consider them rivals. So essentially, and I do root for the Nets as well, not as much as the Knicks, but I root for the Nets because I love Jason Kidd. He got me into the Nets back in the day. Keith Van Horn. And then hockey, I'm not really allegiant to one team. I was Islanders, but I've gotten a lot more into the Rangers, producing the Rangers podcast. And, you know, with Ron Duguay, our Rangers host, bringing me to games and stuff, and the big pieces of shrimp that they have at the club area have reeled me in to like the Rangers because I love big pieces of shrimp.
Awesome.
I'm used to the cocktail shrimp. So when you give me a big ass piece of shrimp for free of charge, free 99, I'm going to eat a lot of them.
Yeah,
so
turn that down.
So maybe that's, my Rangers fandom is on the basis of big ass shrimp. And then Mets, no Yankees. So I originally liked the Giants back in 2000. Tiki Barber I loved, and now I've got to know Tiki a little, which has been cool. And he sang Chestnuts Roasting on an Open Fire for me, which he sings to one of his kids to put them to sleep. So the Giants were first, and then someone ruined my life and got me into the Jets, and it went downhill. But yeah, the Mets are my.
No. Someone ruined your life when they turned you to a Mets fan and not a Yankees fan.
No, see, I'm happy with that because I think I hate to say it, but there's a lot of bad Yankee fans out there. There's some that are just the worst people, and Mets fans, you can't really be bad because the team's so bad that we're all just lovable losers. That we're
here for the baseball.
We're a band of brothers that are together and just losing. So I say, being at the World Series in 2015 was one of my top moments. Just being at a World Series game with the
Yeah.
Mets involved was awesome. 2006, I saw the last playoff win at Shea, and before they lost Game 7 of the NLCS, and the place just rocked. So Shea brought back good memories. There just haven't been a ton. I'm hoping that, maybe next year there's a World Series, and if there is this year, maybe eventually fans are there, or maybe I could get a credential and go. But I don't have a ton of Mets memories, but the ones that stand out are why I love the Mets. It's like the Yankees, you guys have it every year in terms of playoffs, which means nothing to you. We make the playoffs and you throw a parade. So that's what I love about the Mets. Like
Hey,
it's
no,
few and
it
far.
meant nothing to me. I was super stoked when we made playoffs last year, and I was so mad when we got dumped out of it. It's like, we
Yeah, but
just.
you're used to it. It's like, all right, we're in the playoffs, big deal. Let's win a World Series. For the Mets, it's like we put up wild card champion banners. It's like we're the second wild card team. Let's put a banner up. Like that's how our franchise is.
That's true. You have talked about all of the different things that you've gotten to do throughout sports. One of the things that you got to do recently that caught my eye, and you probably know what I'm going to say, but listeners do not. You recently got to interview Ben Affleck for his sports drama, The Way Back. First of all, kind of a two-part question involving that, but what is he like in person, and how do you think that he fit in with that plot and the script of that movie?
I've never felt uglier than when I sat next to Ben Affleck. Like I felt like Voldemort or like a hobbit in Lord of the Rings sitting next to this beautiful man. And listen, I love women, but this is one beautiful man that if I were to like men, Ben Affleck would probably be in the top 5. Yeah, he looked good. He definitely smoked cigarettes. He smelled a little bit like a menthol cigarette. But just like the beard and like, everything was formed, and I just was. And then when there was the picture of me like with the mic, with a picture of me and the microphone next to him is like the guy on the left looks like he should be like in an ugly asylum, and this guy's like America's Next Top Model. So it was that was definitely cool. It was, there was a couple other people. It was like a round table, but it was cool that I got the chair next to him.
Yes.
But I thought he was awesome in the movie. It was cool because I saw the movie, the first screening in New York, and I got to watch it and then interview Doc Gooden after, who talked about his problems with drugs and drinking. So I got a cool panel afterwards. I watched it with Jeff Nelson, who hosts our Yankee show, so he was there next to me. We kind of, it was cool to converse with him about it, and with Doc being Doc's teammate. So I had a unique way to see the movie that I'm not used to. So I enjoyed it. I thought he fit the role great. I thought it was different for him, and he talked to me about the preparation for it, and I thought it was cool how he said he would watch videos on certain coaches, and he was trying to figure out how to yell and scream at the guys because this was his first sports movie. Think of all the movies he's done. This was his first true sports movie, so I was curious to see what preparation went into a completely different aspect, and for a guy who's a big sports fan but not like a diehard fan, he really had to learn the ropes of trying to be a basketball coach.
Yeah, and you just raised an interesting point as far as emanating some of the mannerisms that coaches have on the sidelines, as far as, I'm just thinking of some of the great, most popular coaches, but, the hands on the hips, the throwing their arms when they're bitching at the referees and things like that, and the way, they change their tone when they talk to their players versus their assistant coach versus a referee. Just all of those things that go into acting out what a basketball coach is, I think without having any experience in that would be so difficult. So that's the one thing that I personally wondered about as far as his ability to, play the role. Obviously, he's a great actor, but I just was curious. I know you went to the live screening, like you said, but I haven't gotten a chance to watch the movie yet, and I know it came out early March.
Where you been?
I know. Well, it came out early March, and then literally a week and a half later, everything here in Oregon shut down. So I don't.
You're gonna find a stream online. You can find it somewhere. You can find a stream, rent it, something.
Yeah, I could probably pirate it somewhere. That's true. I probably shouldn't say that on my podcast.
Everyone does it. It's 2020. Come on.
That's true. But yeah, so I was just personally surprised that they would pick somebody like him that's never played a role like that. But from what I understand, he executed it very well. So.
But he's Ben Affleck, and I think what makes him great is that he can adjust to most roles. And um, I'm curious to see him in more sports movies. Honestly, I think it would be cool to see him do baseball. Just go around the spectrum. Do hockey. You can play like Herb Brooks and Miracle 2 or something. Just do every sport. Curling.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think he should definitely do more sports movies. And was that the movie that he was saying that he had to lose weight for and like get in shape for? Wasn't he recently more overweight because of all his relationship stuff with Jennifer Garner?
Yeah, I think so. Although I don't know if he was that skinny, but like he was playing some basketball in it. Like he was shooting around and probably, yeah.
That's what I thought. Okay. Well, moving on and kind of switching back to the MLB talk, but there is obviously a lot going on right now with the start of the season, I guess, or what might be the season. So what do you personally make of all these positive COVID tests, and what do you see happening in the near future with all these cancellations and positive tests?
Well, I definitely think it's too early to say shut down the season because we've only seen, a lot of positive from one team. So obviously, let's be real. They were doing something dumb. They were at a club. They were out. Someone exposes someone, and they weren't smart. And you're gonna get that with a young team that knows they stink in the Marlins. They're coming to the year knowing that even in a 60-game season, there's a good chance they don't make it. And when you're in Miami and Atlanta, two cities that you're talking about Miami and Atlanta with Magic City, that anything could happen. So Lou Williams knows well. But I mean. It hasn't been spread enough to cancel the season. I think guys just need to hold each other accountable and be smart. They got to change the game. I knew there was no way they were going to restrict guys from high-fiving and spitting. Those kind of things, they're just not going to happen. They're not going to slap them on the wrist or fine them. At some point, if it gets crazy, Rob Manfred's going to have to lay down the law and start fining guys and making sure that just for these 2 months that you get through it and be smart. And then after that's over, when you're not playing, do what you want, but still. well, it's hard because like catchers can't wear masks, pitchers can't wear masks. It's hard to ask these guys on the field to wear masks because, listen, it prohibits me on my walk to the bodega. Like I can't imagine playing baseball with it, so I wear it. But like you got to take a breath in it and take it off. Well, you're playing. Like at the gym today, I was not putting a mask on because I was drenched in sweat. These guys are drenched in sweat in this heat out there. They can't do it. So it's about when you're away from the stadium, not going places, not being around questionable people, and being smart. Just for 2 months, hold off for a couple months.
Yeah. Well, and I'm with you on the whole mask while playing thing because like even me, like if I have my mask on my face and I'm like going down, walking downstairs, I can, I basically almost look like directly in my mask as I'm looking down. So it definitely, and this is, no aspect of whining or anything like that. But as far as playing a sport standpoint, I think that wearing a mask while you're playing a sport is going to inhibit the play. So, and especially when you're talking the professional level, it's like if you can't let them play to their fullest ability, then what's even the point? So, I'm with you. I don't think they should shut it down entirely, but I definitely think they should have at least put a little bit more thought into the maybe possibility of a bubble, like some other leagues are doing. And I'm hoping that they tighten down the restrictions from here forward, like you mentioned, and kind of keep these players in line. Maybe give them some incentive to follow the rules and stay with their team, basically, because I think it's going to get out of hand quick if they don't tighten it down in MLB for sure. So. Yeah,
the bubble now looks like a genius move that they should have stuck with. The problem with that was, the hot spots at the time were Arizona and Florida, so they were like, let's not do this. I feel like they could have found somewhere else to do this, even if they put them all in New York. I mean, New York hasn't been terrible where they could. I don't know about that because it's a big city, but somewhere like a medium-sized city. Find a couple baseball. It would take more than a couple, but find some baseball fields and get it done. LA, I don't know, somewhere, and just, lock them down for 2 months. I know it sucks, but you're making millions, and after it's over, it'll be fine. So it's not the worst thing in the world if you're getting paid to play baseball for 2 months and staying in one spot. The NBA guys are dealing with it. Some of them better than others. Some of them need their chicken wings outside the bubble, but they learn quick that they gotta take 2 weeks off if they do so.
Yeah. Well, and I think you just brought up a good aspect of it all too, is the availability of baseball field space. I think it's way easier to construct a makeshift. I mean, they're calling these NBA courts sound stages. They're not even calling them arenas because they are basically constructed. And we actually learned at the start of all the scrimmages that the courts are left over from what was to be the NCAA tournament. And so you're essentially playing on a fake court. So baseball field is a little bit more difficult to just make appear out of nowhere as far as regulation, safety, and all of that stuff goes for the players. So
You're also dealing with more games every day, more bigger size rosters, double the size roster. There's a lot more that goes into baseball. Where basketball, it's a 22 playoff. Some 6 of them are going to be done after 8 games, and it's just 2 different stories. More days off. It's a big difference.
Yep, you're absolutely right with that. So I think it's definitely going to be interesting to see, how the league decides to proceed with all of this going forward. But assuming that it all goes well, assuming that we see a full, and I'm air quoting here for those of us who aren't watching the video, but a full MLB season. Obviously, I think we all know what you're going to say as far as a World Series winner prediction, but give us at least maybe like a playoffs breakdown, or who do you think are the realistic picks for being making it to postseason play?
Well, on the podcast, I said the Dodgers over the Yankees. I think the Dodgers are just so good. If they could just stay healthy and get Kershaw back, they'll be right there. Their lineup is stacked. I think the Yankees are stacked. I think their lineup is just so good that their questions are starting pitching. And can Chapman come back? Can Tanaka come back? Can Paxton be consistent enough and stay healthy? Those are their question marks. But with Garrett Cole, you throw them out 2 times in a playoff series, they're dangerous. So Yankees and Dodgers are the clear-cut favorites. I think the Mets are definitely going to get in with this extended playoff. I think it's just be shocking if they don't. But yeah, I do think the Mets. I think the Phillies are interesting because of their lineup. Their pitching questions me, but I think the Phillies can get in. But it's really Dodgers, Astros, Yankees, and honestly the Mets. If Stroman comes back, they're a dangerous team. They just have so much depth offensively, and that's just not just me saying that. I mean, you look at their roster, and really? if Stroman's back and you get DeGrom 2 to 3 playoff starts in a series. That's scary. And, hopefully tonight they found their 5th starter potentially in David Peterson making his debut. So, I'd love to see a Subway Series World Series. I would have loved to see it in a better situation where fans are there and I can go. But I wouldn't rule that out. But, I'll stick with my Dodgers-Yankees prediction.
Cool. I like it. Thanks for sharing that with us. And honestly, that's all I have for you today, but would love to have you back on the show. I know it's getting late over there. You're giving us the courtesy of visiting with us on East Coast time. So I know you're a self-proclaimed night owl, but I definitely like to be courteous with people's time. So appreciate you stopping by and chatting with us. And maybe we can get you back on the show later on towards the end of the season or even during postseason play and see how your predictions ended up going for you.
My predictions are always wrong, but yes, thanks for having me. And yeah, I'm up till 1 or 2 a.m. usually, so I am a night owl, not self-proclaimed, just straight up night owl.
It's okay because my predictions are usually bad too. My NBA Christmas Day predictions were horrendous, so I'm like pretty much since then I'm like, yeah, don't pin this to the wall, please.
My friends have learned to pick the complete opposite of what I'm picking, and they usually win lots of money.
I better be careful because that's going to start happening to me too. So, but again, I appreciate you. Thanks so much for joining us, and go Yankees.
Boo.
We'll see you later, Jake.
Say it.
Bye.
Okay. that at the end of every interview. Thanks so much to Jake for coming on. Always great chatting with him. He is becoming a good and dear and close friend of mine. So thanks so much, Jake, for your time. And make sure you guys go check out Amazing But True podcast and go hear a little bit about what he has to say. Closing out the episode, just going to do a little rundown of what's going on in the Wubble. As we know, that is the women's bubble for the WNBA. They are in Bradenton, Florida, which is obviously different than the Walt Disney World setting that the NBA bubble is in. It's about 2 hours away. And one thing that has been talked about, but I don't feel like has been talked about enough, is the amount of WNBA players that have been taking their kids, well, not been taking their kids, but have their kids with them in the Wubble. There is a handful. I've highlighted 4 of them that I'd like to talk about today. But I just think that this is one of those things that shows the importance of, one, not only how amazing women are, but also that these women athletes are world-class athletes. They're professional athletes. A lot of them also play overseas professionally as well. And they have their children with them because that is their motherly duty. And they are seemingly balancing the duties of being a professional basketball player and being a mom. And I think it's really amazing. So there are a few players, like I said, that I would like to highlight. First of which being that she has been talked about quite a bit. There was a clip of her and her daughter in the pool playing together that kind of made its rounds on social media. But Dearica Hamby, who plays with the Las Vegas Aces, has her daughter Amaya in the Wubble with her. Candace Parker of the Los Angeles Sparks has her daughter Layla with her. I believe I'm pronouncing her name correctly, forgive me if I'm not. And Bria Holmes from the Connecticut Sun has her daughter Deonna with her. And Bria Hartley with the Phoenix Mercury has her 3-year-old son Bryson with her. And that's definitely not all of them, but those are just a few that I was able to find, accurate information on the child's name and the fact that they were definitely with mom in the Wubble. But this is one of those things that goes back to LeBron, more than a game, more than basketball, more than an athlete. Goes back to Kobe, obviously, in his support of the WNBA. I just think this is one of those instances where we are being shown how amazing women are, both in sport and in home. And I definitely think that this is a topic that needs to be talked about a little bit more. I think these women are literal superheroes. And I just commend them for all the hard work that they're putting in to not only have an incredible season for themselves, but also to put on a show for sports fans, to also give us, the camaraderie that we have needed so much during quarantine. And they're being amazing moms while they do it. I can't say it enough. I just think that all of these women are so amazing and would definitely love to see more footage of them, more stories of them. So hopefully the media, people that are in the Wubble kind of covering the players and the goings-on that are in the Wubble, continue to give us that content. A, it's so wholesome, and B, it's just stuff that people need to see. We need to normalize moms being badass professionals in whatever it is they do, but also being kick-ass moms, and just owning and taking care of business. I just think that's what it's all about at the end of the day. Obviously, our families are the ones who, when we're done playing basketball, when we're done at work for the day, whatever it is that your profession is, those are the people that you go home to and, pour your heart into and get poured into from also. And those are the people that really fill our heart and souls. So I just wanted to take a moment to fill the culture segment of the episode with that topic and those names. Like I said, little bit shorter episode today. Hope you guys enjoy it, even though it's short. We are, like I mentioned, going into Kobe Bryant Day and essentially what is known now as Mamba Week after Kobe Bryant's passing. And, you know, the whole sports world is just going to be electric with their memories of him. And we do have another awesome interview planned for next week. So please stay tuned for that. Episode 14 is shaping up to be a good one. And I hope you guys enjoyed episode 13. So thanks as always for watching. And of course, make sure you check out the secret segment with every interview guest. It's a 10 rapid fire questions to get to know them a little bit better. God, I just cannot talk this whole episode. Sorry about it. But yeah, like I said, go check out the secret segment. Thanks for listening. I appreciate you guys, and thanks for all of your support all the time. We'll see you next time.
Stop. Got that West Coast wave. Fuck around and catch a West Coast fade. We go up, post up. Both teams played hard.